Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Take 430 of the Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I'm super excited about our guest today, Aleasha Bahr. And before, why is it 430 takes? Because the dog started barking the first time I started doing the intro, and then Siri, no, I'm not saying it. Okay, decided that she needed to, jump in. So third time's the charm. So I'm going to read Aleasha's bio and then bring her on. Aleasha is a sales strategist, speaker, best-selling author, and founder of the Black Sheep Sales Method. Because if it's a fit, it's a fact, and there is no selling involved. And let me tell you, this is badass. Okay, she has 15 years of experience customizing sales strategies to your personality, audience, and service, because sales is not a one-size-fits-all. Her methods empower business owners to effortlessly convert up to 80% of their leads without pressure, pitching, or pretending to be someone else. She sold 50 million plus in services herself and has helped others sell 17.5 million over the last 4 years alone with her proven personalized approach. So without further ado, let's meet Aleasha. Yay, we got through it this time.
Awesome. Hey, Iris, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. And, it's funny because I've been watching you for the last year and a half. I've watched you evolve and change, your business model a little. And you're just so good at what you do. And I love your freaking posts on Facebook. Like I watch them and I know I don't comment a lot, but I eat them up. I eat them up. And once in a while, I'll be struck to comment, but I'm more of a lurker, for pretty much everybody. So yeah, but you're just, I think you're phenomenal. And we did have a salesperson on here and I cut it because I was like, it's not for my audience. You are for my audience. So tell us about Aleasha.
Well, that is an honor. And actually, I no longer have sales experts on my podcast for that same reason. I just disagree with them so often. I just stopped having them on. And, my podcast sales is not a dirty word. Sales experts are always reaching out to come on because I guess they, make sense. But yeah, so I don't even know where to start. I think that, it's important to address that sales strategies, the mainstream ones, are about 20 to 50 years outdated.
Yep.
They were created for aggressive white men by aggressive white men. So that's when those were the only people buying and selling. And so those are the only people who are really going to feel comfortable delivering that kind of strategy. And those are the only people who are going to feel comfortable being on the receiving end of that strategy. And that includes white guys who are not aggressive, you guys. They feel very odd in this position as well. So I am so excited to get a little louder and get it in front of a few more ears here that you don't have to do things like that. And actually you will sell a lot more when you're not imitating that aggressive, pushy, manipulative strategy.
Yeah. I remember when I first got into sales, I didn't know that I was in sales, which was like another story. But then when I moved to Indiana, I was doing newspaper advertising sales. And it used to be where and this was like 20 something years ago, right? So you would drive by and be like, hey, Bob, you doing an ad this week? Yep. Okay, great. Get it to you next week. And that was it, right? Because it's like this hometown thing. And then when you were selling, it was, and the funny thing was I never sold the way that they wanted me to. Like they wanted me to get in their face and sell them shit that they didn't need. Like there was an entertainment publication, and then there was also a trades publication. So they would want me to go out to the, like Purdue Convocations and go, hey, you want to get in here? And I was like, no, they don't belong in there. So I would get in trouble with my boss all the time because I'm like, I'm not selling in there. Why not? Because they don't belong in there. They don't belong in there. So why am I going to put them in there?
Yeah, it wouldn't benefit them. And I mean, that is like the trademark of a black sheep, what you're saying. So there are typically black sheep in sales departments all the time. And the way you know is that they do stuff differently from everybody else and nobody really understands what they're doing. And they've learned to just leave them alone because they're making their numbers. So we're not going to mess with it. And we'd like them to continue making the sales. Usually if you ask them what they do, they say, well, I don't really sell. And everyone's like, well, I don't know what the hell that means or how to imitate it, So that was definitely me. And so getting into doing it for other people has forced me to put words to it. When people naturally do it, they don't have any need to put words for it because they just do it and they don't need to tell anyone else. But yeah, the reason they say that they're not selling is that they're fitting. Is this solution a fit for someone's needs? Will it benefit them? Is it in their best interest? And if it's not, I'm going to tell them.
Right.
Don't get that thing. You don't need this most expensive options with the bell and whistles. You actually just need this middle tier one or whatever. And it leads them to say that they're not selling. But here's the thing. If it's something that they believe is in the other person's best interest, they are selling the shit out of that because they really, really believe it. And because they've established the trust of not selling them things they don't need, the other person believes them too.
Exactly. And so it was funny. So I walked into, I forgot who the director was at that point. I see her face. I can't remember her name. But anyway, I walked in with the publication and I went like that because I was told to show it. So I showed it. I went like this. And she goes, what was that? I said, I was supposed to show you this. You have no business being in this whatsoever. I'll come back next month when we have, what you should be in. So she goes, well, what is it? And I said it was Builder Showcase, whatever it was. And she goes, well, I'll buy something in there, And I went, you don't need to be in there. You produce convocations. You do like theater and music and all of that. I mean, if you want to do like a smaller ad or whatever, fine. But no, So, so she asked me, how are your numbers this month? And I said, fine. You don't worry about my numbers. And the fact that she was even worried about my numbers, right, spoke volumes. So I said, don't do it. And she said, just give me a half-page ad. So I was like, okay, fine. At that point, I'm not going to argue with her, right? So I gave her the half-page ad. But the following month, she bought the inside full color and the back page full color. 2, full color, full page ads. Because that made sense to her. It made sense because she could have one ad for one show and another ad for another show. And it was to her audience.
Well, you'd already established the trust, and that you weren't just there for a money grab. You weren't just there to sell her something, whether she needed it or not.
Right.
And I did have the majority of my corporate career was spent selling digital advertising to newspaper clients. So This was when we started, saying, okay, we have actually these great audiences online that you can get in front of. And of course, they have all the capabilities of a digital agency too, because they're owned by a huge media company. And so I had the same experience, especially with automotive dealers, where they would be like, how far are you to your goal? What are your numbers? So sometimes I think that that's just somebody who's really familiar with they have relationships with their sales rep because it's been their rep for years and years and years and years and years. And car dealer guys, the automotive, I had to work with them, and they were the classic aggressive white guy salesman who is of nightmares. But they have no marketing experience. Most of them have only high school education, and they're managing these enormous budgets. And they made their decisions completely based on their relationships. Do I trust this person? It does not matter what they're selling. Do I trust this person? And it took a while to earn the trust. And it was just so weird to see people make decisions based on just arbitrary crap. Seriously, the wind would blow a different direction and they would change their mind. It was
I know. But I've always been relationship based, right? When it comes to sales, when it comes to anything, I will not work with a client if I don't have a relationship with them because I don't feel like I'm doing them. Okay. let me back up. I will, but I try to build a relationship first so that there's trust on both ends. We know that what we're going to enter into is going to be beneficial to both of us. And there's that trust there. But there's also the relationship piece, because now it's like, I know them. So I know what I can offer them more to help them better. And that's what it is for me. So, and we were talking about this before. Like, I have this one client who we started out with the web, we started out with SEO, and then we started doing video, and we started doing the other stuff. And because each thing that we were doing was helping her more and making her better and making her brand better and making her seen more. And that's what I do, right? So
yeah, well, we were talking about
it. You had a little face.
Well, no, I was talking about it because you had to put the contingency in it last time. You had to say, I was only selling her stuff she really needed.
I know, because I didn't feel like I was selling. And this is where you're going to be like, but you are. And I know that, but it's like, to me, I'm helping. And so I guess I don't call it sales, because I feel that when I offer something more, it's because I feel that when I offer it, it's something that they need and it's helping them. And I know that it's sales, but for some reason in my head, it's like not sales. So I don't know.
Well, so I had this experience actually with someone recently. Like, I got this equipment, and he called and was like, what are you using the equipment for? And I was like, well, I'm doing this, I'm going to record some music. And he was like, well, do you have a microphone? I was like, I have a USB microphone. He's like, that's not going to work. He's like, I'm really not trying to sell you anything. I'm really not. He had to say it like 4 or 5. I was like, dude, first of all, thank you for selling me something I need. Like, it's fine.
Right.
And the reason people have this association with it is that they're so used to the person who is, when they think of sales, they think of convincing. And if you're convincing someone, you're not selling shit.
Right.
It's really just like, do you need this? Great. That's why that like annoyingly infamous line from Wolf of Wall Street, when he asked him, sell me this pen. And he says,
oh my God, that drove me nuts.
Can you write something down for me? He was creating a need. It's something that somebody needs. And so it just makes sense. There's no convincing involved. And that is the way that a sales conversation should go. And there's no reason to apologize for selling somebody something that they need.
Well, and that's it. So when you bring it up to them, it's like, so put a proposal together. What do you think I need? I think you need this, 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 and this. Okay, great. And why do you think I need this, this, and this? Because I think if you do this, it's going to benefit you this way. If you do this, it's going to benefit you this way. Okay, great. Sign me up. I mean, all of my clients, though, like if you ask any of my clients, they will tell you that that's what I do. It's like, I'll sit there and be like, okay, I think you need to do this. And they'll be, why? What's the benefit? And I tell them the benefit. And then they're like, okay. And because I guess in my mind, even though I am selling, I don't feel, and maybe it's like, sales is a dirty word, right? It's like, because of that connotation, the way that it was with the white man. And, he was like coming in there and going, you need to buy this, or, going in and beating somebody up because, it's like with my digital marketing, I'm literally getting trademarked right now. If you're not online, you're not an option. Because it's true. If you are not online, you're not an option. Yeah. If your competitor is online, they're an option. If you're not, you're not.
Right.
And so, and Nina, has been telling me for years, you need to get a trademark. You need to get it trademarked. And now it's like, okay, so it's in the trademark process right now. But that's my biggest selling point, is that if you're not online, you're not an option. And that's, I think, my hardest sell, if you want to.
That's the thing. Like, sometimes I'll say things and people will be like, ooh, it's a good sell. And I'm like, well, it's just true. Like, it's just, I'm not trying to say anything a certain way, or I'm just laying out the facts, honestly. Yeah. And that's really when it comes down to the root of what makes somebody good at sales, it's just actually giving a shit about the other person. And I know that sounds very simple, but if you do, really, everything will come out of you in the correct way naturally. Like,
and it's authentic.
Yes, it's
you're being authentic because you authentically care about the outcome, right? The outcome for that person.
You're not thinking about your bills, your
No.
commissions, your whatever. You're only thinking about, will this benefit this person? And the thing is, in situations like yours that are long-term relationships, like service providers have these long-term relationships.
Yeah.
It makes a big ass difference when you only give somebody the things that they need, because then they stay. Like if you sell them something they don't need, they're going to leave because they think that your shit doesn't work. Right. And also, if your only goal is getting a yes, you're going to bring on nightmare clients. And we've all been there. Okay. Some money is not better than no money. And the churn is so much more expensive than retaining really great clients. So these aggressive strategies, like I could maybe see if you were like not the person fulfilling the service.
Right.
But if you're fulfilling and having the relationship, like it's an absolute setup for a disaster that never ends well.
Yeah. And it's your name. Like if you don't do the thing that you say you're going to do, people are going to be like, don't go with her because she sells you shit that you don't need. I mean, and who, you know, like nobody wants that. And I think that, you know, people don't, when you can tell when somebody's in it for the money, you can tell when someone's in it for the clothes, right? It's like,
they call it commission breath.
They call it what?
Commission breath. You have commission breath. Like you just want my money.
I never heard of that.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, and I've never been like that, which drove anybody that I've ever worked with or was in a partnership with, drove them nuts because they were like, you got to get the people. We need the numbers. And it's like, no, I'm not just going to sell somebody something to sell somebody something. If they need it, they need it. If they
it's short-term thinking. They're going to leave. Like,
yeah, right. And for me, I have clients that are with me over 2 years, over 3 years, right? It's like, you know, before I entered that other, you know, partnership that kind of went south, people were with me for 5 years. Like I keep people long-term because they know that I give a shit. They know that I care about, you know, I have people like we sell tchotchkes and, you know, I have somebody who's like, well, I want to give you a chance to bid. And I'm like, okay. And I lower what I would normally get because I know their budget. I'm working with a client now that I've been working with for 2 years and their budget was cut by a shit ton of money. So, okay, I don't, you know, let me help you out. I don't need to make that much on it. I know our quality. I know the quality of the stuff that we get. I also know the quality of the stuff that you can get from that person for maybe a little more or maybe a little less. It's not going to be the same. And they know it. So 90% of the time I will get the bid, even if I come in a little higher.
Yeah. There's just something to be said for being able to trust somebody is, trust somebody that you're buying from. And everybody always says, oh, that's necessary for sales, right? Know, like, and trust. And same with marketing. So, but there's like so many instances where somebody, it's like they only focus on the know, like, and trust in the leads process. And then they just leave right after the sale happens. And they're so attentive and thoughtful in the sales process. And then just horrible in the delivery process. So when you find somebody who actually does what they say they're going to do, you are like, this is 1 in a million. Like, I'm sticking around.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like, you know, even if I just build somebody. So when we build our websites, we build them with SEO. So it's not cheap, but and if they decide to do an SEO retainer, great. If they don't, then their site is ready for whenever they are, whether it's with me or somebody else, their site is SEO ready. So, and that's important to me. And I can't tell you how many people that I've just built a website for that will give me the most amazing testimonial because, you know, I'll see them somewhere or once in a while, I'll just check on them, not to sell them, just be like, hey, you know, how you doing? How's everything going?
Yeah.
Great. Cool. You know, that's it.
You mean you actually care?
I was just checking on you. You know, I see the website's doing well and, you know, you're doing well and that's, and they can't believe it. We have a thing here called Rise and Shine Lafayette, and I go whenever I can because it's like 7 a.m. on a Friday, and to get my ass up at 5:30 is like a
Oh God.
thing. Yeah, it's like a lot. So I go when I can, and whenever I go, I see people that I've done one-offs for, and they're like, "Bring it in, give me a hug. How you doing? Oh, have you met so and so?" And then they introduce me because I did this great job for them. Yeah. And that's what my business is, right? It's, all-in-one marketing solutions for service-based businesses. So you don't want to work with, 100 people to get your marketing done. Work with us. We'll get all your stuff done. You just need a website. That's cool. Everything is a la carte. You can do whatever you want. And I get calls for just SEO. I get calls for just video. I get calls for just a website. I get, all of these different things. And it's because a lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of people are like, oh my God, you need to work with her.
Yeah. I mean, it's really like the difference between short-term and long-term thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, you never listened to those people, because the problem is a lot that told you to do things differently, that were upset with the way that you did them, because a lot of times people do end up listening to those people and their sales crash. I can't tell you how often I talk to somebody who's was doing something that worked really well, and somebody told them that they needed to change it, and they did. And it's like, wait, why did they tell you need to change it if you get results? And it's like somebody just needs to stamp their ego on somebody's stuff. And something that's really different about me is I'm like, if it's not broke, I'm not fixing it. It doesn't matter if it's different, that I haven't seen it work before, that it's an exception, literally doesn't matter. It's working.
So what made you decide to become an entrepreneur and get away from what you were originally doing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have this theory that every entrepreneur is a previously high-performing employee who is labeled difficult.
I love you.
Yeah, and you just finally are like,
are you listening? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They're doing stuff, but they want to make it better. And it's annoying everyone that they keep wanting to do things differently or better, because everyone else is just there to make a paycheck. Can you stop making us do extra work, And you realize I'm the only one who actually gives a shit about the end product here, or the end service, or the end experience. And I'm so tired of having to apologize for the quality that I'm delivering, or dealing with toxic culture. I'm garbage at office politics. Okay. I knew people who were chess masters at it. They thrived on it. And I was just really, really, I'm very open and blunt and transparent and direct, and it puts people off all the time in a corporate setting. And so I actually come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I didn't necessarily want to be one, because I realized how hard it was. I wasn't naive about anything. I think sometimes people can be a little bit idealistic about owning a business.
Yes.
I knew how hard it was, but it was just naturally all right, I guess the only way I'm gonna be able to create what I want is to do this. And it's scary, but honestly, it's scarier to compromise myself in all of these ways that are out of alignment for me. And so I had a marketing agency, and was full service. And I got to the point where it was a messy middle, where I needed to hire people. And then there was overhead. And then I was making the same amount of money, but doing extra work. And I was like, all right, this is not for me. And honestly, I miss sales because I sold digital marketing. So I realized that there was no training available for business owners that made any sense. That was anything that was comfortable. The prevailing concept of mainstream sales is it has to be uncomfortable. You have to do it hundreds of times before it starts working. You need to become resilient to rejection. So hear as many no's as possible, which is incredibly discouraging. And that's when I was like, there's an opportunity here to offer something different. And it's really grown over the past 5 years to, I don't know if it's a misguided or a naive sentiment, but I think that the world could be a better place if sellers and buyers could have a natural experience where they just got the information they needed to make the right choices instead of getting burned. And if people knew how to explain their services in a way that conveyed that to people so that they signed up with them instead of them signing up with the person who is great at sales and terrible at delivery. And so, I mean, there's lots of opportunity for me to go to corporate and do corporate training or like focus on salespeople. And it doesn't fill my cup as much as helping that person who's like, I hate sales. I'll never be good at it. And then I work with them and I create, because I give them the words too, like the words to say and the questions, not in a scripting kind of way, but in a framework, like a structure. Mm-hmm. And their confidence just like blossoms and they make a lot more money. And there's something that is so much more rewarding about that to me. And sometimes I'm like, man, why didn't I just make some kind of like, packaging insert and be a billionaire and then sell my company, like some stupid shit, some piping, whatever, instead of like this, we're just selling like knowledge and expertise and the ability to make more sales. But I just really find it so much more fulfilling than like making money doing corporate sales training or something.
And I think that there's something to be said about that, right? Because I think that when what we do aligns with our purpose, I mean, magic happens. And, when you do the thing that makes you feel the best, that you can be your authentic self with, and that is also a gift for somebody else, that's huge. I mean, at the end of the day, that is huge. And, because there are salespeople out there that, I mean, I still see them here and I watch them sell and I'm like, no. And I will never forget. Okay. So advertising sales, right? Mm-hmm. I will never forget that we were being trained down in Indy and the guy running the sales thing, it was like a little sales summit, like a 2-day summit or whatever.
Yeah. That's the corporate training I'm talking about that I don't do.
He goes, pick a card. And I went, okay. And I picked a card. And then he goes, okay, put it back. And he pointed to whatever. So I put it back. And then he goes, okay, pick another card. So I pick a card. And he goes, okay, put it back. And he pointed, And so, I went through this whole exercise and, I looked at the card and we'll just say it was like the 2 of clubs, right? And at the end, he goes, 2 of clubs. And I said, wow. He said, yeah. He goes, I made you put those cards in those piles so that you would pick, because I knew that, whatever card you picked, mm-hmm. I made you pick that card because I held the deck a certain way. So I said, so you've been manipulating me this entire time. And he goes, no. He said, I've been guiding you. And I said, no, you've been manipulating me.
Oh my God, Iris, I love you.
And I was like, that shit's not cool. And my boss was like, what do you, no, and I'm like, no, that's like manipulating people. And I'm not going to do that. So long story short, I quit, but I quit because of other reasons. But I was so pissed off. Like he thought he did the best thing. And I felt so manipulated. I came home and I told my wife, I was like, I feel so dirty. Although she wasn't my wife at that time. She was my partner because we couldn't get married. But, and she goes, why do you feel dirty? And I said, I was like like he told me to pick the 2 of clubs and I picked the 2 of clubs and it was icky the way that he did it. And she was like, okay. And she didn't get it because she's in steel and she's an engineer and, she doesn't think like that. She doesn't, but I really felt dirty. And I was like, ew. And I told one of my clients, I was like, I promise you, I will never. And if you ever see me do that, call me out, please call me out or take me out back and shoot me. Cause that would probably be better because
ew. I mean, that's the thing. If what you offer is quality and it solves somebody's need, there's no reason to use psychological tricks. Like, I'm like,
No.
why? Why do we can just have a transparent conversation about what this is and is not. And if you're on board and your expectations line up with what I do, then let's roll, kind of a thing. So yeah, I see that all the time. People will be like, what you don't understand is like NLP in sales is like a big thing now. And like what words you use to like hypnotize somebody. And it's just, why are you doing that?
Hypnotize somebody? Basically,
there's like hypnotic language you can use that kind of puts somebody in a type of trance. It's guiding them, as your guy says, to see things a certain way, the way you phrase things, the words you use, the way you position things, like to a point that
I'm not okay with that.
Solely based on their psychology. Like, I'm about positioning, but positioning in the way that matches the person's needs, like not like a trick of your mind.
No. It's like a Jedi mind trick.
Yeah,
you will buy the thing. I will buy the thing. I mean, ew, right? That's just like...
Totally.
That's not okay. No.
I agree. I mean, and positioning is really important. Like, a lot of times I do an analogy to a sports game. Like, if you want to bring a friend to a baseball game, if they are single, you're going to be selling how there's the singles there to mingle with, and you're going to buy them a beer and whatever. And then the other friend maybe has, young children at home and they don't drink. And so you're going to talk about the fresh air and the location of the seat. And they're both the same game, right? It's just positioned for the person you're talking to.
Right.
And a lot of people just position it for themselves. Like, they don't realize, like, they don't understand what the other person needs and how their offer solves that. Like, they're all true. You don't need to tell them all the things,
Right.
But I feel like I'm like talking so much about sales. I know you guys usually talk about entrepreneurship. Do you want to talk about like the tough times I've had?
This is about what you do. So, and it's important because there are a lot of people out there that claim to do what you do and they don't.
Well, what's really weird is a lot of people will be like, I'm a sales coach, but they don't help anyone with how to explain what they do. Which is like the thing that everyone struggles with the most is how can I explain what I do? And they're like, actually, can you figure that part out? I'll just tell you everything else. Like, what? That's the hardest part.
Knowing your target, knowing who you're talking to, knowing what they need. I mean, so my wife had to take an assessment and she came home last night and she goes, I got a question right because of you. And I went, oh, cool. Like, what was it? And she said, you're starting a business or you're putting a product to market. What's the first thing you need to know? She said, and I said, your market, your target market. And I was like, yes, that's like amazing because people are like, well, we need a plan first, or it's like, no, you need to know who you want to target because a plan's not going to do any good if you don't know who you're selling to.
Yeah.
Or who needs your product.
And why they need it. Like, what is it solving? What challenge is it solving? I talked to a guy recently. I had him on my podcast. It was really interesting. He shared a different approach to business that started by hanging out with the customers you love and seeing what's missing in their life and then creating something for that. So literally starting with who you want to serve without any product in mind.
Wow.
Because a lot of people will be
amazing.
Like, yeah, it's like, makes sense, right? As opposed to being like, I have this idea and I'm so excited about this idea and it's my idea. So I can't let go of it because I came up with it. And I just want everyone to like it as much as I like it. So I can say that I had an idea that people liked. And it's like, it'll be so much more successful if you just figure out who you like hanging out with and what's missing, like, and provide something that's actually useful.
Right. Fill a need, right? Fill a need or see where there's a void and fill that void. That's 100%. So, okay, we'll talk about entrepreneurship. So, what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking of becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I personally am not a fan of like jump and the net appears or whatever. Like that scares the shit out of me. Have you heard that?
Yeah. It's like the leap of faith and the net or the ladder will be there for you. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like burn the boats, right? Burn the boats or whatever is another way of saying it. And I understand that could work for some people who just, I don't know, have to be forced into a decision. But I personally like to make it less desperation filled, because I think that if you're coming from a place of scarcity and desperation, it's like commission breath to the universe and everyone else that you're talking to. You have to have it work. So I built my agency on the side while I was selling. And then once I had enough clients that it made sense that it replaced my income, then I left. And I highly recommend this approach. If you're going to shift, I didn't unfortunately do that for my sales strategy business. So that was a different kind of scary adventure where I ended up working with someone who was supposed to be a business coach, but they were actually a manifestation coach, which is very different. And they were very expensive. They were $18,000. And I just had my newborn.
Ooh.
And it was a really scary time. I don't recommend that, like definitely understand exactly what someone is offering. There's so many questions you can ask somebody before moving forward with them.
You were a manifestation coach?
Yeah. Well, her argument was really the nuts and bolts are like 1% of it and the rest is 99%. And it's like, not
wow.
real.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't know that until like after I'd already bought it. So one of the things that immediately became clear is that mindset is required for entrepreneurship because it will be scary. And I didn't struggle with this so much when I had a marketing agency, but if you're like building a personal brand of some kind, it's like very different. Like if you're selling yourself, not your services, it feels very different. And it's very easy to doubt yourself and quit for literally conspiracy theories that you're making up in your mind about yourself and your situation. And your brain will just take off like a wild horse and you have to rein that thing in order to succeed. It's not about manifestation, because the thing that didn't sit right with me about the law of attraction, and I finally got words for it recently, is that this aggressive focus on positive thinking only and affirmations and whatever, it scares the shit out of you when you have a regular, real emotion. You're like, oh God, I can't feel that. Oh God. And you like, you repress it. And you're like, I'm going to attract all this bad stuff because I'm sad and I can't be sad. And then it's just like, you start attracting that stuff anyway. You can't just hide from it, No,
because at the end of the day, we're human. So we're going to have good emotions. We're going to have bad emotions. I mean, I went through the same thing where I was like, okay, I had like my human design done. I'm a generating manifester or manifesting generator. No, shit. Anyway,
I don't know.
I'm an MG, manifesting generator. I'll explain that. But, and I am a manifester. Like the reason that I'm doing as well as I am is because I do manifest, but I don't manifest because it's like, oh, I can't think anything bad. I mean, I try not to. I try to really look at the positive and good side of people and situations all the time. But there are days, like last Friday, where it was like, no fucking way. I was involved in the middle of a shit show. And it was like, there is no way to positively spin this. There is absolutely no way. And I am not, and I just looked up and I went, so be it, because it is what it is. And I don't care anymore because, I know that at the end of the day, I think manifestation is, if you're a good person, good things are going to come to you. Doesn't mean that you have to constantly think positive, because not every good person thinks positive. We all have our days.
And I mean, I'm all about like visualizing what you want so you know how to get it, or knowing what you want so you can get it, which is a whole nother epidemic that like most Americans just don't even know specifically what they want out of life, other than like more money and losing weight or something, which are very vague, nebulous goals that are really difficult to achieve. And honestly, don't sound exciting to anyone. Let's be real. Like when you say that, you're just not excited.
Yeah. You're like, no.
Yeah. So when I say mindset, I mean the ability to manage your emotions and not let them mean anything about your identity. Like not let them lead to you judging yourself or shaming yourself or making impulsive decisions because of them, because everything in life is peaks and valleys, personally, professionally, romantically, with your kids, your health, like everything. And there's going to be another peak, like, you know, and the best advice that I've gotten most recently is to raise the floor of the valley instead of focusing on having a higher peak. Just make your worst that much better.
Right. It's
and
like
it really adds up.
Bottom gets higher.
Yeah, and it really, it's less discouraging. It's more rewarding. It really makes a difference over time. It compounds with time very well. And that has helped so much because we're always striving for more. And it's like self-defeating.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the mindset thing is you're going to fail. Right.
Totally.
And failing is first attempt in learning. Right. Because as long as we learn, it's a lesson. You know, it's not a mistake. It's a lesson. And I have a thing that I've been saying, and it's that we all hit obstacles. We all come up against a wall, and we can make them stopping stones or stepping stones.
I like that.
And if you make it a stopping stone, then you stopped. You don't move forward anymore and you've given up. But if you look at it and kind of shake it off, which is like what Kofi and I were talking about earlier, right? And you can go, okay, we learned things that we had no clue that we needed, you know, to know. Now we know, or maybe he knew and I didn't know. He's probably back there going, shut up. But it was a lesson. It was a really good lesson. And it didn't stop me. Like, you know, I could have just been like, oh my God, we're never going to do this thing again because, you know, of whatever. And to me, it's like, no, now the next time we fucking do it, it is going to be amazing because we made the mistake. We took the mistake and we made it a lesson. So now we know the things and the steps that we have to take to make the next thing, you know, amazing. And to me, that's like a win. But that's mindset, right? I could have been like, oh my God, you know, like the New York Jew would have come out. What am I doing? What am I thinking? How can I even, you know, whatever. And I completely don't feel that way. I feel at peace and I feel really good, and you know, we know better for next time. So, but yeah, you can't beat yourself up.
Well, it's such a mindset shift. I have the same one. It's like, all right, let's test this. Fuck it. Let's see how it goes. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't. Whatever. Like you just sort of approach it like that, and you're able to approach it like that.
You did that really well, I want to say.
Thank you. And you're able to approach it like that when you aren't desperate for money. Like that's why it's so important to not do it from this place of scarcity where you burn the boats and you're like fucked. But a lot of people say like your back needs to be against the wall. And this is something I heard from a really toxic sales trainer recently. He was like, if your family was kidnapped, would you sell 100 solar panels? Because they would kill them if you didn't.
Who the fuck said that?
This really huge douchebag named Andy Elliott, who also asked to see everybody who works with him's six pack because he can match that back to their paycheck, that level of discipline. No fat on his employees' bodies because these people don't rest. All they do is grind. Like, it's just so toxic. Anyway, can you imagine the little old lady who opens her door to this man who believes that his family's going to die if he doesn't sell her a solar panel? Like, the level of commission breath is just poisonous. Like,
of course. Oh my God, you have to buy these or they're going to kill my family. And you're like, okay, I'll buy them because I don't want your family to die, right?
Well, or you're also like, why the fuck? What are they going to do for me? Like, what? Like,
well, shit, I'm not going to buy it. I'm sorry for your family. Like, and then they have guilt for the
sounds like insane. Well, no, it's really like, can you call the police? Like, how is this my problem? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the one to solve this. Like, there are other solutions here. My money is not the answer. So yeah, that mindset shift of just like not coming from a place of scarcity, it allows you to like explore and not be judgmental and treat a failure as the only way to fail is if you quit.
Yeah.
Like, literally everybody who's ever made history for anything failed an epic number of times.
Oh yeah. And that's it, right? It's like, you're going to have failures. You're going to have things that don't work. And, you know, and the funny thing with me is that I'm normally okay with it. It's like, okay, move on and learn. And, you know, this time I didn't. And it affected me to where, you know, I went to sleep and I woke up at 20 to 3. And I've been up ever since.
It's because it impacted someone other than you. And so you feel
100%, because and that's what I mean, right? That's the difference. That sales guy would be like, okay, that old lady felt bad. She spent, you know, 30,000 on solar panels. Fuck her. Who cares? And me, I'm like, oh my God, you know, I mean, I'm good now, but you know, again, so I woke up at 20 to 3 and I was like, but I feel okay. Why am I up? Son of a bitch. So I, you know, did Wordle and connections and spelling bee and, you know, the crossword. Because that's how my brain, you know, I like distract myself with knowledge because I learn, you know, every crossword. It's like, how the hell did I not know that word? Well, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, you idiot. You think your brain is like functioning right now, you know? So it's like, but anyway, so there are like seasoned entrepreneurs, right? And we know a lot of them. We're in the Dames, so we know like a lot of, you know, high functioning entrepreneurs, mostly women, actually. Yeah. And I always talk about the Dames because I love the Dames.
Me too.
I mean, I really do. And when you were talking about the microphone, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You perform because, you know, I perform and I forget. I've seen like some of the stuff that you've done and you're just like an all around awesome talent, you know, with what you do. And I mean, I'm lacking, and I don't just say shit. I think you know that. So
well, I'm lacking in a lot of areas, but when it comes to like creativity, I'm trying to find a way to like, I'm bursting with it and I'm trying to find a way to channel it into sales. And so actually I'm going to start doing these salesy Steve skits with a muscle suit and a wig.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That douchebag we were just talking about, he's the inspiration.
That's amazing. And then you have to write a song about it, right? And you can say,
I am going to write a song about it.
You have no place in our lives. You know, something.
No, Iris, I am. I'm writing a book, about Black Sheep sales, and I'm going to write a song to release the book and film a music video.
That's incredible. I'm just like...
Well, it's extremely Black Sheep. Like, you want to talk about, like, this is like the weirdest of the weird, like, you know, corporate, it's going to be turned off for me forever. I don't give a shit. Like, one thing that I really love about, like, stepping away from corporate is, like, I can wear a fucking tank top. And if you don't want to work with me because I'm in a tank top, you are not my client. Like, exactly. What a dumb reason to not work with somebody.
You know, I'm in a t-shirt. And this is my podcast. And I had somebody say, you know, was it last year? Kofi might remember. But somebody Oh no, I remember what it was. I had just done the podcast, and then I had a meeting with this woman in California. And so we were talking, and she said, it's really important how you show up. And I said, yeah. And then I realized she was talking about me being in a t-shirt. And I said, oh, you mean me being in a t-shirt? And she goes, well, yeah, you're like making a first impression. And I said, this is me. I said, so if somebody doesn't like it, then they're not the right fucking person for me. And she just like kind of looked at me, and I said, I can stand up. And I actually probably had these jeans on because I had ripped jeans on too. Yeah. Because now I was pissed. I said, do you want to see my ripped jeans too? I said, I have on fucking Yeti underwear. I can show you that too, So, and she was just like really, taken aback. But I was like, how dare you tell me, and then I finally was like, you know what? If that's how you judge people, or if that's how you decide who's going to be a power partner or not, is how they dress, that's cool. Clearly we're not right for each other.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
I remember when I was the first year that I was doing this, I was going to do a presentation about how to convert over 50% of your sales without being a dick.
I saw that. I was like, you crack me up with this. Go ahead.
Well, and this woman that I was like, we were at this retreat, and I was like, okay, here's a presentation. Like, what do you think of this? And this woman was like, I would never work with somebody who said the word dick in their presentation. And it really made me question myself for like a while. And I like didn't do it. And it took me a long time to really get comfortable into who I am and being okay with the fact that I don't want to mask with a client. Like, I don't want to have to pretend that I'm somebody different. I mean, I can be respectful, of course. I'm not going to like talk about weird stuff that makes people uncomfortable or anything like that. But, if you're that uptight, like it is not a fit. Like if you care about pomp and circumstance, like we are not a fit. I care about results. I care about authenticity. I care about like things that are not that.
I watch your stuff and I wait. I'm like, what is she going to come up with now? Because I love it. Like I saw that, don't be a dick or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, that's like, it's amazing and that's what I was talking about, being authentic. Like I've been on this kick, and it's like, if you don't show up authentic, then you are attracting the people that are attracted to your inauthentic self. And then when they see who you are, they're like, oh shit, I didn't know.
You have
so
to
you're
mask.
Not being fair, right? You're not being fair to yourself, and you're not being fair to them. So that's why in most of my first meetings, I drop the F-bomb. I do, because if they're not comfortable with the word fuck, then they shouldn't work with me, because I'm going to be saying fuck a lot. It is what it is. And it's like one of my favorite words. My friend Michelle is probably now every time I say fuck, sorry, I haven't said it in like probably the last, I don't know, few interviews. But I say it. She takes like a sip of wine. So right about now, she's probably into like two glasses.
Pretty drunk.
Probably feeling really good.
When people swear, I feel like it's a safe space. And I said this the other day at a Dames event, and this one was like, really? Why? And I was like, because I can stop monitoring myself.
Yes. You don't have to.
Like I could just relax.
And you shouldn't have to.
Yeah. And I mean, that woman was obviously like in a lot of other networking groups besides the Dames. And I'm sure that they all like present themselves in their like Bentleys with their like monogrammed Louis Vuitton purses or whatever. It's just, it's been very liberating. And that would be advice to anybody thinking of starting a business, to really be unapologetic about who you are and what you want, because there are people who are going to love that. And actually, it makes you more magnetic to say who you're not a fit for. So someone can easily say, oh, I'm not a sales bro. Like, I'm not obsessed with taking gym selfies. Like, I'm a fit for Aleasha, right? I don't want to hustle and grind all the time. I don't want to talk about money all the time. I don't want to, flash my bank account numbers. Like,
I don't talk about that shit. Like Megan was like, ooh, you're in this level now. Can we talk about it? And I went, no.
Right.
And she said, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't want people knowing how much I make.
Yeah, I've always learned that was like really rich people don't talk about that.
Well, and I'm not really rich, but I just don't want, I don't know. It just seemed like weird to me, but you know, Alison O'Brien, you know, Alison.
Yes.
Like one of my favorite people.
Yeah. She's awesome.
And like the first time we met, like we were talking and I think we were like feeling each other out and I can't remember who dropped the F-bomb first. I think it was me. And I was like, you're fucking awesome. And she's like, you're fucking awesome too. And like, we've been like friends ever since. And, you know, like to get to meet her at, you know, like Funference last year for me was like this whole crazy, oh my God moment, because like all the people that I'd been talking to for a year and a half, you know, I got to meet and the energy was even better in person, but it was like a lot of energy. So there was somebody who spoke at like 3:00 and I couldn't people anymore.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm pretty much an extrovert. I could be an introvert too, but I had never been around that much energy of people that I loved. And it was like, I looked at Fabienne, I went, I got to go upstairs. She's like, yeah, me too.
I had to bounce too. I bounced out with Annie and Carrie because we were like, we can't take it. Like, I definitely am an introvert. So a lot of people think they have to be extroverted to be good at sales, and introverts actually make fantastic salespeople. And a lot of people associate it with being like shy or outgoing. It has nothing to do with that. It's about your energy levels. And I believe, my theory is, the reason that people drain introverts is that they're so focused on the other person's experience. Like, is this person interested? Like, did that set them off? Did that come off weird? Like, what should I, you know, how do I navigate the conversation? Which makes you very good at sales, because you can tell when something's landing with someone or making them uncomfortable, and you can easily shift and adjust and address it, you know, when you have the right structure and wording. Obviously, like if you don't, then you just feel weird being like, what's coming up for you? Like, you don't know to say what's coming up for you. You don't even know to say that. You're just like, your face looks weird, you know, like noticing something's going on with your face and it's not a happy emotion. Like, what's happening?
What is up?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, we know your differentiator. I usually like ask, you know, what's your differentiator, but clearly it's what you do. But so what is your project now? Because we're almost at time, but I want to talk about your project now, what you're doing now. And then tell us how people can find you. But what are you doing now?
Well, I'm writing a book about a black sheep seller, you know, who was always told, like, what are you doing? You need to do it this way. And they didn't listen. And for whatever reason, it pisses people off that they just do things a little differently. And they killed it. And this is how they did it. And I'm going to write a song about it, which, Iris, if you write music, I mean, I need somebody to like write this song with. I have lyrics, but
let's
not
do
a melody.
You have lyrics?
Yeah, the lyrics is what I do first, which is probably backwards.
No, it depends, because I've written songs where I'll play my guitar and I'm like, oh shit. And then I'll take the recorder out and I'll like record it. And then there's other times where, you know, when I'm not doing this and I'm like taking a minute, or I'm in the bathroom and something hits me. And then I just like say the lyrics in the you know, in my phone, because I don't go anywhere without my phone, especially the bathroom. So,
yeah. So I'll be.
You never knew about Iris, that now you do.
Well, that's also every human. Come on.
I know, but, you know.
So I'll be writing a song and recording it. I do have a voice. It's not like Celine Dion, but you know,
you have a good voice. I've heard you.
So I'll sing it, and then I'll record a music video. And that's what I'm working on this year. I want to get it done by December. And if you want to find me, I would start on the podcast, Sales is Not a Dirty Word, specifically the episode about how to sell like a natural. And if that lines up or resonates with you, then I have these little solo episodes. And I like, if you just binge those, people say that they immediately see a result when they start implementing.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So they can find you where all podcasts are?
All the podcasts. Yeah. And of course, I'm on all the socials too. If you want to see the sketches, you know, follow me on my social accounts, the Salesy Steve sketches that are coming soon, making fun of your least favorite douchebag?
Your least favorite douchebag. Oh my God, I love it. What words do you want to leave the audience with?
I think a good theme for our conversation is there are no failures. You either got the result or the lesson you needed.
Okay. And then the last question I ask all my guests, drum roll, please. What lights your fire?
So since, rebranding into Black Sheep Sales, I have realized that what really lights my fire, obviously I've been a black sheep my whole life, in my family, in sales, in corporate, as a woman, whatever. I really get fired up about giving a voice to people who feel like they have not had one, who feel like they have had to have their voice quieted so that they can fit in to whatever makes the majority of people more comfortable. And it really lights me up to give them the confidence to come out with their real voice and their perspective and their thoughts and their ideas because they matter. And innovation and inspiration and progress happens when people think and do things differently. And I cannot imagine the amount of brilliance that has been hidden from this world by people who tried to make others feel small because they were, I guess, scared by someone doing something differently. And, I definitely didn't feel like I had a voice for a very long time. I think that's why it's so, close to me. And so I get really fired up about somebody who is like, what I have to say matter? You like this idea? Yeah. Even if it's not the idea, it's going to spark someone else's idea and then spark someone else's. And this is how it all starts. And I just want like a black sheep party where everybody's together because we're more powerful together. And if people don't like it, they don't have to come to our party. Like, whatever. Go have your own party. Everybody deserves to have their own mainstream party, black sheep party, whatever it is, like whatever makes you happy, you deserve to have that.
I can't wait to hug you in October.
Same, Iris.
Hang on, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody and then I'll be right back. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out again for an hour plus. I hope that you gleaned a lot of nuggets from this episode. And I hope now you love Aleasha as much as I do. She's fucking awesome. Let's just face it. So do all the things, go like, share, subscribe, download. Our downloads are up. Let's keep it up. Keep downloading, share, subscribe. The more you subscribe, the more I'll be able to get a sponsor. So keep subscribing and help me out there. And I appreciate you all for watching and your comments and all of it. And I love you all. So until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.